Picture this: you're standing in the middle of a bustling city, surrounded by flashing screens, endless notifications, and the constant hum of chatter. The modern world is designed to pull your attention in a dozen directions at once. Now, rewind 2,000 years. Imagine Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, walking through the chaos of ancient Rome, writing in his journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That same chaos he faced, it's still here, only now it's louder, faster, and more relentless than ever. But here's the surprising truth: the tools to master your focus in this distraction-filled world aren't new. They've been waiting for us in the pages of Stoic philosophy all along. This isn't just about productivity hacks or time management tricks. It's about something deeper: how to live with intention in a world that's engineered to distract you. Stoicism teaches us that focus isn't just a skill, it's a way of seeing. It's about training your perception, disciplining your attention, and choosing where to direct your energy amid the noise. And in cities that never sleep, where every corner competes for your focus, these ancient principles become your secret weapon. Think about it: how often do you sit down to work, only to find yourself scrolling mindlessly minutes later, or start your day with purpose, only to end it feeling scattered? The Stoics knew this struggle not because they had smartphones, but because distraction is timeless. What changes is how we respond to it. So what if you could walk through a crowded street and keep your mind as calm as a quiet room? What if you could turn down the volume of the world and hear your own thoughts clearly? That's what we're exploring today: how Stoicism's timeless wisdom can help you reclaim your focus in a world designed to steal it. We'll dive into the discipline of controlling your attention, the power of perception, and the art of intentional living. This isn't about escaping modern life. It's about navigating it with clarity and purpose, because the real skill isn't avoiding distractions, it's mastering your mind in spite of them. And that's a lesson the Stoics perfected centuries ago, one that's waiting for you right now. The Stoics didn't see focus as a checklist item or a productivity hack. They saw it as a fundamental discipline of the mind, a muscle to be trained with the same rigor as courage or self-control. Epictetus, the former slave-turned-philosopher, put it bluntly: the more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. In other words, your attention isn't just something you lose, it's something you surrender. And that's a radical idea in a world where distractions aren't just around us, they are engineered into the fabric of our cities, our devices, even our social rhythms. Think about the way a crowded street or a buzzing phone doesn't just ask for your attention. It demands it, triggers your reflexes, exploits your curiosity. The Stoics would call this a test of your inner citadel. Here's the key difference between Stoic focus and modern productivity advice. Most time management tricks treat distraction as a problem to outsmart block apps, set timers, hide your phone. But Stoicism goes deeper. It asks, why are you so easily pulled away in the first place? What weakness in your perception makes the buzz of a notification feel urgent? Epictetus trained his students to interrogate their impulses, to pause before reacting. He'd say the modern city isn't your enemy, your untrained mind is. Because a distracted life isn't about lacking tools, it's about lacking boundaries with yourself. Imagine two people walking through the same noisy downtown. One feels assaulted by the chaos, their thoughts scattered by every billboard and alert. The other moves through it untouched, not because they've shut out the world, but because they've mastered what the Stoics called selective attention, the art of deciding what deserves your mental space. That's the real training. It's not about ignoring the world, it's about relearning how to see it. The neon signs still flash, the phones still ping, but your inner dialogue changes. You start to notice the difference between what's loud and what's important. This is why Stoicism feels so urgent today. Productivity hacks optimize your time, but Stoic focus optimizes your vision. It's not just about doing more, it's about seeing more clearly. And in a world that monetizes your attention, that's revolutionary. The next time you feel pulled in 10 directions, remember, the chaos hasn't changed since Epictetus' time. Only your ability to stand firm in it has, and that's a power no algorithm can override. Here's where Stoicism hands you a mental filter for modern life, the dichotomy of control. Picture Seneca writing to his friend Lucilius 2,000 years ago, describing how city noise, chariots clattering, street vendors shouting used to infuriate him until he realized something profound. The noise wasn't the problem, his reaction was. He trained himself to hear the chaos without letting it hijack his peace. Fast forward to today. Replace chariots with car horns, vendors with targeted ads screaming for your attention. The principle hasn't changed. The modern urban world is a relentless test of that same Stoic question. What's truly within your control? Your commute delayed by traffic. The traffic isn't yours to command, but your frustration is. A barrage of notifications lighting up your phone. You can't control their arrival, but you decide which ones deserve your focus. Even something as simple as a flashing billboard on your walk home, it's designed to seize your gaze, but whether it steals your thoughts is up to you. This is the Stoic superpower in cities, recognizing that distractions are inevitable, but distraction is optional. Think of it like walking through a storm with an umbrella. The rain isn't in your control, but staying dry is. Noise, ads, interruptions, they're the rain. Your attention, that's the umbrella. Seneca called this inner retreat, not by fleeing the world, by building mental boundaries. When a siren wails outside your window, you notice it, but you don't have to let it derail your concentration. When your social feed floods with clickbait, you scroll past it, not because you're disciplined, but because you've clarified what's worth your energy. Here's a challenge. Pick one urban distraction you encounter daily. Maybe the ping of a non-urgent email, the glow of a street lamp outside your bedroom, the urge to check your phone in line at the cafe. For the next 24 hours, treat it like a Stoic exercise. Notice it, then consciously choose not to let it dictate your mental space. That's the heart of the dichotomy. It's not about silencing the world. It's about reclaiming your right to decide what gets heard. Because every time you ignore what doesn't serve you, you're not just managing distractions, you're rebuilding your attention on your own terms. This is why Stoicism feels like a rebellion today. In an economy that profits from your divided focus, choosing what to ignore becomes an act of defiance. The city will keep throwing chaos at you. Your power lies in remembering, as Seneca did, that the chaos was never the problem. It was always about where you let your mind settle. So the next time the urban world feels overwhelming, ask yourself the Stoic question: is this mine to control? If not, let it pass like background noise. Your focus belongs to you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That's the essence of amor fati, the love of fate. It's not just accepting the chaos of the city, it's embracing it as your teacher. Think about the last time you were stuck in traffic, horns blaring, engines idling. Your first instinct might be frustration, but what if you saw it differently? What if that gridlock wasn't stealing your time? It was giving you a chance to practice patience. The Stoics didn't just endure life's irritations, they used them as whetstones to sharpen their minds. Take the subway at rush hour, a packed train, strangers pressed shoulder to shoulder, the hum of chatter and announcements. Most people see it as an ordeal. The Stoic sees it as a gym for composure. Every delayed train, every loud conversation, every unexpected detour is an invitation to ask, how can this moment serve me? Amor Fati flips the script. It's not about tolerating the noise, it's about finding the gift in it. That construction outside your window, it's not just noise pollution, it's a reminder to focus inward. The crowded sidewalk, a drill in maintaining your stride without losing your peace. Here's the secret. The city's distractions aren't interruptions to your tranquility. They're the raw materials for building it. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet he wrote his deepest insights in the chaos of military camps. If he could find clarity in the clamor of war, what's stopping you from finding it in the hum of your daily commute? Try this today. Pick one urban annoyance, a honking taxi, a slow-moving line, a neighbor's late-night music, and reframe it. Instead of resisting it, thank it. That honk, it's a reminder to breathe. That delay, a chance to observe your thoughts. This isn't wishful thinking, it's strategic reorientation. When you stop fighting reality and start working with it, you reclaim agency. The city will always be loud, but your relationship to the noise can change. Amor Fati turns the entire urban landscape into a dojo for Stoic practice. The next time you're jostled in a crowd or cut off in traffic, smile. The obstacle isn't in your way, it is the way, and that shift in perspective, that's where real freedom begins. Seneca once advised, rehearse in your mind exile, torture, war, so when they arrive, you'll greet them as familiar guests. The Stoics called this premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. But here's the twist. In our modern world, the evils aren't barbarians at the gates or sudden exile. They're the pings, scrolls, and infinite feeds engineered to fracture your focus. What if you could meet those digital temptations with the same calm readiness as a Stoic facing adversity? That's the power of applying ancient wisdom to modern distractions. Start with your smartphone. Every notification is a tiny ambush, a carefully crafted lure for your attention. The Stoic response: don't wait for the attack, anticipate it. Imagine waking up and, before even touching your phone, visualizing the flood of messages, the dopamine triggering red dots, the algorithmic traps set in your social feed. See them coming. That's premeditatio malorum in action. You're not fearing these distractions, you're immunizing yourself against them. Seneca wrote, "The man who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power." When you mentally rehearse the chaos of your inbox before opening it, you strip it of its power to derail your morning. Now, let's put this into practice. Design a Stoic morning routine that doesn't just react to distractions, it outmaneuvers them. Instead of reaching for your phone first thing, start with 5 minutes of journaling. Ask yourself, what distractions will try to claim my focus today? How will I respond when they appear? This isn't pessimism, it's strategic preparation. The goal isn't to avoid technology, it's to engage with it on your terms. Turn off non-essential notifications. Schedule email checks like appointments rather than surrendering to their whims. Here's the challenge. For the next 3 days, apply premeditatio malorum to your digital life. Before unlocking your phone, pause. Visualize the distractions waiting for you, then decide consciously which ones deserve your attention. Notice how anticipation changes your relationship with the device. The endless scroll loses its hypnotic pull when you've already seen it coming. That's the Stoic edge in a distracted world. You're not fighting temptations in the moment, you've disarmed them before they even arrive. This practice reveals a deeper truth about focus. Distractions aren't just interruptions, they're tests of your priorities. When you preemptively decide what matters, the noise of the world fades into background static. As Seneca put it, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. By confronting digital distractions in your mind first, you transform them from tyrants into tools, and that's how Stoics turn chaos into clarity. Epictetus gave us a profound piece of wisdom that cuts through the noise of modern life. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose. That space, the Stoic pause, is your secret weapon in a world that's constantly trying to hijack your reactions. Think about the last time you instinctively reached for your phone when it buzzed, or turned your head at a flashing ad, or felt your pulse quicken when someone cut you off in traffic. Those reactions aren't accidents. They're the result of a world that's engineered to shrink that space between stimulus and response, to make your behavior predictable, automatic, distracted. But here's where the Stoics flipped the script. They taught that every distraction is an invitation to reclaim that space. You don't need a meditation retreat or a silent cabin in the woods to practice this. The city itself becomes your training ground. Take something as mundane as waiting at a crosswalk. The light turns red, and immediately hands reach for pockets, eyes drop to screens. That's the moment to practice the Stoic pause. Instead of filling the void with scrolling, stand still. Feel the impulse to check your phone, and then don't. That tiny resistance isn't just about self-control. It's a rebellion against the expectation that every empty second must be filled. Elevators are another perfect micro-moment for this practice. Most people can't endure 30 seconds of stillness without reaching for a device. But what if you treated that brief ride as a drill in presence? Notice the urge to escape the silence, watch it rise like a wave, and let it pass without acting. Epictetus would call this exercising your sovereignty. It's not about the elevator or the crosswalk, it's about proving to yourself that you're not a puppet of your environment. Try this today. Pick one routine pause in your urban life, a traffic light, a checkout line, an elevator ride, and use it to stretch that space between stimulus and response. When the impulse to distract yourself arises, pause, breathe, ask, does this deserve my attention? That simple question is the difference between reacting and choosing. And every time you choose, you widen that space a little more. So here's a challenge before the day ends. Identify one distraction you paused to resist. Was it ignoring a non-urgent notification, letting a loud conversation pass without tuning in? Each small victory trains your brain to respond rather than react. Because in the end, focus isn't about what you see, it's about what you refuse to let yourself see. And that refusal starts with a pause. Musonius Rufus, the Stoic teacher who lived in 1st century Rome, had a radical practice for his students. He'd send them to live in the countryside without servants, forcing them to cook their own meals, mend their own clothes, and rely entirely on themselves. At first glance, this sounds like ancient hardship training, but there was a deeper lesson, one that's painfully relevant today. By stripping away conveniences, his students discovered something startling: how much they'd mistaken comfort for necessity. Fast forward to modern life. We don't just have servants, we have digital butlers, algorithms that anticipate our desires, apps that deliver food with a tap, devices that fill every silence with stimulation. The question Rufus would ask us isn't, can you survive without these? But, do you even remember how to? That's where negative visualization, the Stoic practice of imagining loss, becomes a weapon against distraction. Picture waking up tomorrow to find your smartphone permanently disabled. No maps, no messages, no endless scroll. Your first reaction might be panic, but sit with that feeling. What does it reveal? The Stoics weren't anti-technology, they were pro-clarity. By mentally removing conveniences, we expose our hidden dependencies. Like Rufus' students hauling water from the well, we're meant to confront how much we've outsourced our attention. and who really controls it. Here's the irony. Ancient Rome had its own version of hyperconnectivity. Wealthy citizens relied on armies of slaves for everything from carrying messages to cooling them with feathered fans. The Stoics didn't reject these comforts outright. They interrogated their grip on the mind. Seneca famously practiced poverty, wearing rough clothing and eating simple meals despite his wealth. Why? To prove to himself that his peace didn't hinge on external trappings. Today's equivalent isn't giving up your phone, it's proving you can still think without it. Try this experiment, a digital Sabbath but with a Stoic twist. For one day, strip away not just screens, but any convenience that numbs your self-reliance. Cook instead of ordering delivery. Navigate without GPS. Read a physical book without switching tabs. Notice where your mind rebels. That friction is the point. Rufus taught that true freedom comes from knowing you can, not from rejecting modernity, but from refusing to be enslaved by it. The goal isn't to live like an ancient philosopher permanently. It's to break the illusion that you need the opposite extreme to function. What you'll discover in these exercises is the hidden geometry of focus. Every convenience we rely on isn't just a tool, it's a trade. The GPS saves time but erodes our sense of direction. Social media connects us but fractures our attention. Negative visualization exposes these bargains, letting you choose which are worth making. By occasionally stepping back from the infrastructure of modern life, you're not rejecting progress, you're reclaiming sovereignty over where your mind goes, and that's the ultimate Stoic advantage in a distracted world. Seneca's daily routine wasn't about cramming more into his schedule, it was about carving out space for what mattered. He'd rise before dawn, not to check messages or scroll feeds, but to claim the quiet hours for deep thought and writing. The first part of the day belongs to you, he'd say, guarding those morning hours like sacred territory. Compare that to the modern urban rhythm, alarms set to the last possible minute, mornings hijacked by notifications, days sliced into reactive fragments by the demands of a city that never pauses. The Stoics didn't just manage time, they designed it with intention, building their days like architects constructing a temple, each block placed with purpose. Take Seneca's practice of evening reflection. Before sleep, he'd revisit his day not with guilt or productivity metrics, but with a simple question: did I live according to my principles? Imagine applying that in a world where bedtime often means collapsing into exhaustion after one last scroll. The city thrives on erasing these boundaries, blurring work into leisure, urgency into habit, until the day becomes a blur of reactions. But here's the Stoic alternative: time blocking as rebellion. Not the rigid productivity grids you've seen before, but something more profound, dividing your day not by tasks, but by levels of attention. Start with what the Stoics called the morning interrogation. Before the city's chaos claims you, ask, what deserves my focus today? Then assign 3 types of time blocks. First, fortress hours, uninterrupted stretches for deep work, modeled after Seneca's pre-dawn writing. These are non-negotiable, like ancient city walls guarding against invaders. Second, engagement blocks, structured periods for meetings, calls, or collaborative work, treated with the discipline of a Roman senator conducting state business. Finally, replenishment spaces, walks, meals, or rest, approached with the intentionality of Marcus Aurelius' meditative strolls through his gardens. The goal isn't to mimic ancient routines exactly, but to adapt their principle. Time isn't something you spend, it's something you steward. Now contrast this with how cities sabotage natural rhythms. Streetlights erase the distinction between night and day. Deliveries arrive at midnight. Work emails bleed into weekends. Urban life operates on what the Stoics would call false urgencies, artificial demands that fracture attention. But your time blocks act like a cloister in the chaos. When a colleague says, "This meeting could have been an email," you recognize it as a violation of your engagement block. When social media tempts you during fortress hours, you see it for what it is, a siege on your attention. Here's your challenge: audit one time-wasting habit that thrives in urban cracks. Maybe it's the reflex to check news apps during commute gaps, or letting lunch breaks dissolve into mindless scrolling. For 3 days, replace it with a Stoic alternative. If you usually scroll on the subway, try journaling 3 sentences like Seneca observations, not rants. If afternoon slumps trigger snack and screen binges, take a walk instead, treating it as a moving meditation. The city will keep offering distractions, but you'll start noticing something revolutionary. Between the cracks of urban chaos, there's always space to reclaim your rhythm. What makes this approach uniquely Stoic isn't the structure itself, it's the philosophy behind it. Productivity gurus obsess over doing more. The Stoics focused on seeing more clearly. Your time blocks aren't just containers for tasks, they're declarations of what you value. When you guard your fortress hours, you're not just working, you're practicing the Stoic art of saying no to what doesn't serve your purpose. And in a city that profits from your fragmented attention, that's more than efficiency, it's sovereignty. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, "People seek retreats in the country, by the sea, or in the hills, but you can retreat into yourself anytime." That line cuts to the heart of Stoic flourishing in a modern city. Eudaimonia, that ancient Greek concept of human thriving, was never about escaping the world, but about building an unshakable inner world that no external chaos could penetrate. Picture 2 people standing on the same crowded subway platform during rush hour. One clenches their jaw, checking their watch every 10 seconds, radiating frustration at the delay. The other stands calmly, reading a book, undisturbed. The difference isn't their circumstances, it's their understanding of what true success looks like when the city's benchmarks, promotions, likes, possessions no longer hold the keys to their peace. The Stoics had a radical view of human flourishing that turns modern urban values upside down. While today's cities measure worth in productivity metrics and social media followers, Marcus Aurelius spoke of the inner citadel, a fortress of self that remains untouched whether you're stuck in traffic or accepting an award. This isn't about rejecting external accomplishments, but about redefining their role in your happiness. Think of it like building a skyscraper. Most people focus on the gleaming exterior, the visible symbols of status. Stoics pour their energy into the steel framework inside the structure that keeps the building standing during earthquakes and storms. Consider how cities condition us to equate busyness with importance. The constant hustle, the packed schedules, the performative exhaustion worn like a badge of honor. Now contrast that with Epictetus' question, "If you seek tranquility, do less." Not nothing, just less of what fractures your soul. A Stoic definition of success in Manhattan or Mumbai might include career achievements, but it centers on something more subversive. The ability to walk past a luxury store without craving, to hear sirens without irritation, to receive criticism without crumbling. These aren't small feats, they're revolutions in a world that profits from your dissatisfaction. Here's the litmus test. Imagine your ideal urban success story. Does it require a corner office with skyline views? Stoicism would ask, can you find that same sense of elevation looking out a modest apartment window if your mind is clear? Does your version of winning demand constant validation from others, or could it be measured in nights slept soundly despite the city's noise? This recalibration isn't resignation, it's liberation. When Seneca described his wealthiest friend as poor in the midst of riches, he pinpointed the urban paradox. You can climb every ladder the city offers and still feel empty if your inner world remains undeveloped. The concrete jungle's real test isn't whether you can outcompete others, it's whether you can outgrow the need to. That's Stoic flourishing, not the absence of urban stress, but the presence of unshakable perspective amidst it. Like a tree growing through sidewalk cracks, your thriving isn't about changing the environment, but about discovering what growth looks like within it. The next time you pass someone on the street radiating calm while chaos swirls around them, remember, you're not seeing someone who's escaped life's pressures, but someone who's mastered the art of standing firm within them. And that mastery, that's eudaimonia in the wild. Epictetus grew up as a slave in 1st century Rome, surrounded by the empire's staggering wealth, marble palaces, overflowing markets, gold-laden senators. Yet his most famous teaching cuts through that excess like a knife. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Fast forward to today's consumerist cities, where skyscrapers double as temples to shopping, and entire districts exist to manufacture desire. The modern urbanite isn't chained by iron like Epictetus was, but by something more insidious, the illusion that freedom lies one more purchase away. Stoic minimalism isn't about deprivation, it's about spotting that lie. Consider how cities weaponize space against us. Walk into any apartment in New York or Tokyo, and you'll find closets bursting with unworn clothes, shelves bowed under unread books, countertops crowded with single-use gadgets. Now contrast that with Marcus Aurelius' observation: very little is needed to make a happy life. The clutter isn't just physical, it's cognitive. Every excess possession isn't merely an object. It's a decision point, a maintenance demand, a silent tax on your attention. The Stoics didn't advocate empty rooms, but intentional ones. Their version of minimalism wasn't sterile. It was strategic, keeping only what served virtue or necessity. This philosophy gets radical when applied to digital spaces. Your smartphone is the ultimate urban trapper, a pocket-sized marketplace designed to exploit Epictetus' warning about false impressions of need. Infinite scrolls mimic the neon-lit shopping districts they've replaced, both feeding the same hunger, the belief that the next swipe or sale will fill some void. But here's the Stoic intervention. Decluttering isn't just deleting apps or donating old jeans. It's systematically questioning what you've been trained to want. When Seneca pared down his belongings, he wasn't just making space in his home. He was creating mental bandwidth to focus on what no marketplace could sell him: self-possession. Try this experiment. Pick one object in your home that represents urban consumerism's grip. Maybe it's the smartwatch that buzzes with trivial alerts, or the designer item bought to impress people whose opinions you don't even respect. Hold it and ask Epictetus' question: is this within my control or not? The answer will surprise you. That jacket isn't keeping you warm, it's keeping you anxious about trends. That kitchen gadget isn't saving time, it's stealing space, both physical and mental. True wealth, as the Stoics defined it, isn't about accumulation, but about recognizing how little you actually need to be free. Now shift the lens to your digital world. Open your phone's app drawer and spot the programs that exist solely to manufacture wants: retail apps, social platforms that turn friends into influencers, news feeds that conflate urgency with importance. Each is a modern-day chariot dealer, selling the fantasy that happiness lives in the next upgrade. The Stoic alternative: ruthlessly curate your attention's real estate. If an app's primary function is to make you want something, it's not a tool, it's a toll booth on your peace. Here's the challenge: identify one possession, physical or digital, that actively distracts you from what matters. It could be the overflowing wardrobe that wastes morning decisions, the streaming subscription that replaces reading time, or even the just-in-case items clogging your living space. For 1 week, remove it, not permanently, just long enough to notice what fills the void. You might discover, as Epictetus did, that the chains you're most afraid to break are the ones you've outgrown. Because in a world that shouts more, Stoicism whispers the revolutionary truth: less isn't lacking its liberation. Seneca loved comparing philosophy to athletic training, but not the kind you see in pristine gyms with climate control and noise-canceling headphones. He pictured wrestlers drilling their moves in bustling courtyards, children shrieking, merchants haggling, carts rattling over stones, because real strength isn't forged in silence. It's built amid chaos. That's the Stoic secret to focus. Your attention isn't fragile glass to be sheltered. It's a muscle that grows through resistance. And the modern city, it's not your adversary, it's the perfect gym for your mind. Think of a weightlifter adding plates to the bar. Progressive overload, the deliberate increase of difficulty, is what transforms weakness into power. Your attention operates the same way. Reading a book in a quiet library is like lifting empty hands. Reading that same book in a packed cafe, with espresso machines hissing and conversations overlapping. That's adding mental plates. The distractions aren't ruining your focus, they're fortifying it. Seneca trained himself to write while sailors shouted and dockworkers unloaded cargo nearby, not because he enjoyed the noise, but because he knew this truth. Tranquility isn't the absence of commotion, it's the ability to think through it. Here's how to design your own attention workout. Start small, maybe 5 minutes of focused breathing on a park bench, letting joggers and pigeons pass without pulling your gaze. Graduate to memorizing a poem while commuting, turning subway announcements into background static rather than interruptions. The goal isn't to block out the world, but to engage with it selectively, like a martial artist who hears the crowd yet stays locked on their opponent's movements. These drills reveal a profound shift. You're not avoiding distractions, you're using them as your training partners. Modern life offers endless resistance equipment for your mind. That autoplay video at the edge of your screen, it's a dumbbell for your willpower. The group chat pinging during deep work, a high-intensity interval for your concentration. Even something as simple as walking past a flashing billboard without letting it hijack your thoughts becomes a repetition in your mental squat rack. The key is reframing. Every urban annoyance isn't stealing your peace, it's offering you another set. So what's your next attention workout? Maybe it's writing a letter longhand in a food court or solving math problems amid construction noise. Perhaps it's resisting the itch to check your phone every time you hear a notification, not by silencing it, but by letting it chime unanswered while you stay immersed in conversation. Like Seneca's wrestler, you'll discover something transformative. The chaos that once shattered your focus now sharpens it, because the ultimate Stoic fitness test isn't performed in stillness, it's mastered in the storm. Marcus Aurelius stood on the northern battlefields of his empire, staring at the distant glow of campfires, and wrote this in his journal. Take a view from above, look at the countless cities, the endless ceremonies. Think of all the lives lived in ignorance or anger. Realize how brief it all is. That's the cosmic perspective, the Stoic practice of zooming out until your daily stresses shrink to insignificance. Now picture yourself in a skyscraper elevator, rising above the gridlocked streets, watching taxis become ants and people dissolve into pixelated dots. That's not just a view, it's a philosophical tool waiting to be wielded. The city thrives on manufactured urgency, the honk that demands instant reaction, the deadline that feels like life or death, the social slight that lingers for days. But from the 50th floor, none of that exists. The Stoics knew this trick 2,000 years before glass towers. Altitude alters attitude. When Seneca felt overwhelmed by Rome's political scheming, he'd imagine viewing his life from the moon's silent surface. How ridiculous our anxieties seem from there, he'd chuckle. You don't need a spaceship for this shift, just the willingness to trade the street-level lens for a satellite's gaze. Next time you're jammed in a subway car at rush hour, shoulder to shoulder with strangers radiating tension, try this: mentally rise through the ceiling. See the train as a single thread in the city's vast web, yourself as one temporary passenger in centuries of commuters, that person who just stepped on your foot. In 10 years, neither of you will remember this moment, the delayed train, a blip in the transit system's million daily operations. This isn't about dismissing frustration, it's about contextualizing it. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet he reminded himself daily that the earth is but a point in space. Your crowded commute, even smaller. Apply this to work stress. Staring at a spreadsheet that feels catastrophically important, imagine your office building from a drone's view, just one box among thousands, your desk a speck within it. The cosmic perspective doesn't negate responsibility, it clarifies proportion. That emergency email chain won't matter in 5 years, but your peace of mind today does. Ancient Stoics visualized their own funerals to shake pettiness. You can achieve the same by picturing your current crisis from next year's vantage point. Here's your challenge: pick one stressful urban moment today, a traffic jam, a heated meeting, a long line at the coffee shop, and perform the view from above. Watch as the scene shrinks in your mind's eye, the noise fading like a radio tuned too low. Notice how your clenched jaw loosens when you remember, this too shall pass, and faster than you think. The skyscraper's real gift isn't the panorama, it's the proof that everything overwhelming at ground level looks quiet from sufficient height, and that height, it's always available, even when you're standing still. Epictetus once observed, the key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. But what happens when you're surrounded by thousands in a city, yet feel utterly alone? That's the paradox of urban loneliness, physical proximity without meaningful connection. Now flip the script. True solitude isn't about physical isolation. It's about carving out mental space where you can hear yourself think, even in Grand Central Station at rush hour. The Stoics didn't flee to mountaintops to find clarity. They cultivated it while walking through forums packed with merchants and politicians. Your challenge isn't escaping the crowd, it's discovering how to stand within it without being swept away. Take journaling in a park, not on a secluded bench, but right in the center of activity. Let children shriek on the playground nearby. Let joggers pass in your periphery, but keep your pen moving. This isn't just writing, it's training in selective attention. Epictetus called this the inner fortress, the ability to retreat into your own mind as easily as others step into quiet rooms. Modern cities bombard us with what psychologists call ambient sociability, the illusion of companionship through constant human noise. But Stoic solitude transforms that noise into white noise, background static for your reflections rather than interruptions of them. Notice the difference between two commuters on a packed train. One scrolls frantically through social media, feeding the hunger for connection with digital crumbs. The other gazes out the window, turning the passing streets into a meditation on impermanence. Both are surrounded by strangers, only one is practicing solitude. The ancient agora in Athens was far noisier than any modern subway, yet it's where Socrates held his deepest dialogues. The lesson: depth doesn't require silence, it requires intention. So where's your urban oasis? It might be the laundromat at 2 a.m., where the rhythmic hum of machines becomes your mantra. Or the museum gallery everyone rushes past, where you linger before a single painting until it whispers its secrets. Even a stairwell between meetings can become sacred ground if you pause long enough to breathe consciously. The city isn't lacking quiet spaces, it's lacking people who know how to be quiet within them. Try this tonight. Walk through your neighborhood after dark, not to reach a destination but to notice the way streetlights pool on empty sidewalks like islands of gold. The occasional faces glowing behind apartment windows, each a world unto itself. This is Stoic solitude, recognizing that you're both part of the human tapestry and distinct from it. Because in the end, loneliness isn't cured by more people, it's healed by more presence, and that's something no crowd can give or take away. Every morning, millions board trains and buses, scrolling through feeds, numbing the commute with podcasts and playlists, anything to avoid the silence. But what if those 20 underground minutes held more meaning than entertainment? Seneca wrote, "It's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." That subway ride you're trying to escape, it's a rolling memento mori, an invitation to remember life's brevity in the most ordinary moments. Picture this: instead of reaching for your phone when the train doors close, you watch the stations blur past like chapters of your life. Each stop becomes a reminder this journey isn't infinite. The elderly man dozing across from you, the teenager laughing too loud, the flickering lights in the tunnel, they're all fleeting just like you. The Stoics didn't morbidly obsess over death. They used its inevitability to magnify life's value. Your commute isn't dead time, it's dress rehearsal for living with urgency. Seneca compared time to water slipping through our fingers, the one possession we can't replenish. Yet we treat commute minutes like spilled drops, mopping them up with distractions. Here's the alternative. Let the rhythm of the train become your meditation. Notice how the swaying mimics a heartbeat, how the screech of brakes mirrors life's interruptions. That delayed train, it's not stealing your morning, it's gifting you unexpected minutes to ask, if this were my last commute, what would I want to notice? Try this challenge. Identify one autopilot habit that devours your transit time, maybe refreshing news apps or doom-scrolling social media. Replace it with a single contemplation. Study a stranger's hands and wonder about the lives they've touched. Count 5 sounds you typically tune out, listening deeply as if hearing them for the last time. The goal isn't to arrive enlightened, but to arrive awake. Because here's the irony: in avoiding the quiet, we miss the city's secret gift. Those minutes underground are among the few modern moments where no one demands your productivity. The Stoics would call this stolen time, not wasted but sacred. Tomorrow, when the doors close, resist the reflex to disappear into your screen. Let the rattle of the tracks remind you, this ride, like life, won't last forever. And that awareness, that's how ordinary commutes become extraordinary wake-up calls. Cato the Younger walked through the fires of Rome's political chaos like a man wearing an invisible cloak of calm. While senators around him schemed and panicked, he'd stretch out on public benches to nap during riots, treating the city's turmoil like background noise. Picture Wall Street during a market crash, traders screaming, screens flashing red, and imagine someone at the epicenter quietly reading philosophy. That was Cato. His secret: he didn't just practice Stoicism, he turned Rome itself into his training ground, proving that urban chaos isn't an obstacle to tranquility, it's the raw material for building it. Fast forward to today. You won't find senators napping in Times Square, but you'll spot modern Catos everywhere if you know how to look. That barista who remembers every regular's order despite the morning rush. She's practicing selective attention, the construction worker methodically laying bricks while traffic screeches past. He's embodying present moment focus. Stoic role models aren't confined to history books, they're all around us, mastering their minds amid the urban frenzy. The key is recognizing them, Take the subway conductor who maintains perfect composure when delays trigger passenger complaints. Watch how she acknowledges frustrations without absorbing them, a living demonstration of Epictetus' teaching. It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters. Or consider the nurse walking through a hospital's fluorescent-lit chaos, his steady hands and calm voice cutting through the panic like Marcus Aurelius navigating battlefield chaos. These aren't just professionals doing their jobs, they're urban philosophers proving daily that environment doesn't dictate equanimity. Here's where history hands us a lens. When Cato refused to flee Rome's civil wars, saying, "Why should I fear leaving a city where the walls have long since lost their meaning?" He wasn't being reckless, he was redefining what safety meant. Modern urban Stoics do the same. That teacher leading inner city students with unwavering patience isn't ignoring the challenges, she's choosing where to direct her energy. The firefighter charging into burning buildings operates with the same discipline as Musonius Rufus students facing adversity, not because they're fearless, but because they've trained their focus to override instinct. So who's your urban Stoic mentor? Maybe it's the elderly neighbor who tends his rooftop garden despite the sirens below, or the street musician who plays Beethoven flawlessly while skateboarders zoom past. Identify someone in your city who embodies what Seneca called the art of being unshaken. Then study them like an ancient text. Notice how they create pockets of focus in crowded places, how they respond to interruptions without resentment, how they turn daily irritations into exercises in patience. This isn't about putting people on pedestals, it's about recognizing that Stoicism isn't theoretical. It's alive in the woman meditating on a park bench while dogs bark around her, in the librarian maintaining silence despite the chatter outside, in the taxi driver navigating gridlock without road rage. Their lives answer the question, how would Cato handle rush hour? How would Epictetus deal with a cancelled flight? The answers aren't in scrolls, they're walking among us, proving that urban life doesn't weaken Stoic principles, it makes them vital. Your challenge tomorrow: spot one person in your city who radiates calm amid chaos. Observe not just what they do, but how they do it, the pauses between actions, the measured breaths, the intentional movements. Then ask yourself, what would change if I brought that same quality of attention to my own urban struggles? Because the real lesson from Cato isn't that he was extraordinary, it's that he showed how ordinary people can master extraordinary focus right where they are. And that's a legacy any modern city dweller can inherit. Epictetus once warned his students, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. That's the discipline of ascent, the Stoic practice of consciously choosing what thoughts and impressions to let in or reject. Now fast forward to your morning scroll. A friend's boastful vacation post, a stranger's political rant, an influencer's curated perfection. Each is an invitation to react, to compare, to feel lacking. But here's the radical Stoic alternative. You hold the gatekeeper's key. Every piece of content that crosses your screen isn't just information, it's a test of your discernment. Think of your social feed as a marketplace of impressions, where every post is a vendor shouting for your attention. The Stoics didn't avoid the agora's chaos. They trained to walk through it without buying junk they didn't need. When Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but what you tell yourself about it," he might as well have been talking about Instagram envy, that pang you feel seeing someone's promotion. It's not the post itself that stings, it's your unchecked assent to the thought, "I should be further along." The outrage bait in your newsfeed. It only hijacks your peace if you grant it permission to occupy your mental real estate. This is where Stoic curation begins, not just pruning who you follow, but rewiring how you engage. Picture Seneca tending his garden, uprooting weeds to let the flowers thrive. Your digital space deserves the same care. That influencer who triggers comparison, unfollow, not out of resentment but clarity. The comment section that spirals into toxicity. Scroll past, not with willpower, but with the quiet confidence of someone who knows their peace is too valuable to auction off. Even algorithmic recommendations become less sinister when you remember the feed proposes, but you dispose. Try this experiment. Next time you open a social app, pause before your thumb moves. Ask Epictetus' question, does this deserve my assent? That meme mocking someone's appearance. Decline, the breaking news designed to provoke panic. Reject, the thoughtful essay that sparks reflection. Welcome it in. Gradually, you'll notice something transformative. Your feed starts to mirror your values rather than your vulnerabilities. Because the ultimate Stoic hack isn't deleting your accounts, it's becoming the unbudgeable judge of what gets to shape your inner world. Here's the deeper shift. Social media metrics, likes, shares, views, are modern versions of ancient applause. But the Stoics' new applause was worthless if it came at the cost of self-respect. When Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We value being liked over being free," he pinpointed the digital age's core sickness. Freedom begins the moment you stop outsourcing your worth to notifications and start measuring it by the quality of thoughts you entertain. So tonight, as you charge your phone, charge your discernment too. Tomorrow, let every scroll be a conscious act of selection, not consumption, because the most powerful algorithm isn't coded in Silicon Valley. It's the one running in your mind, deciding moment by moment what gets your assent. And that's the only filter that truly changes everything. Seneca wrote letters by candlelight while Rome slept, guarding his pre-dawn hours like a sacred temple. He understood what our hyper-connected world tries to make us forget. Boundaries aren't restrictions, they're the architecture of freedom. Fast forward to today's cities, where blinking notifications act like digital pickpockets, constantly lifting fragments of your attention. The average urbanite checks their phone 96 times daily, once every 10 minutes. That's not connectivity, it's cognitive colonization, the Stoic alternative. Treat your attention like private property with clear no trespassing signs. Start with what Seneca called the inner citadel's gatekeeping. Your phone's notification settings aren't just technical preferences. They're philosophical statements about what deserves entry into your mental space. Try this Stoic triage system. Urgent alerts like messages from family ring like a knock at your door. Semi-important updates, work emails, go to a silent porch, your notification center, to be checked deliberately. Everything else, leave it in the street, disabled entirely. This mirrors Seneca's practice of screening his correspondence, refusing to let every passerby dump their concerns at his feet. Modern workspaces weaponize faux urgency with Slack pings and calendar pop-ups. But remember Marcus Aurelius ruling an empire without instant messaging. His secret, time-blocked imperial hours for deep work, the ancient equivalent of turning on Do Not Disturb. Apply this to your workspace by creating Seneca mode on your devices. 2-hour blocks where all but essential communications are muted. When colleagues protest, quote Epictetus, "If you wish to improve, be content to appear clueless or stupid in extraneous matters, like responding instantly to trivialities." The city never stops demanding your presence. Late-night emails, weekend group chats, the expectation of perpetual availability. Here's where Stoic boundaries become revolutionary. Just as Seneca withdrew from Roman social circuits for months to write, declare your own philosophical seasons. Maybe it's shutting down work apps by 8 p.m. or designating Sundays as scroll-free Sabbaths. These aren't mere habits, they're declarations of what philosopher William Irvine calls spiritual fence building, creating space for your higher self to breathe. Now the litmus test: track your screen time this week, but with a Stoic twist. Don't just measure minutes, categorize them by virtuous versus vacant usage. Was that hour on social media enriching or envious? Did those news alerts inform or inflame? Like Seneca evaluating his daily deeds, audit whether your digital engagements align with your professed values. The goal isn't monastic withdrawal, but intentional engagement, using technology as a tool rather than letting it use you as a resource. Here's your challenge: choose one boundary to enforce this week. Maybe it's turning off all non-human notifications, those app updates and promotional alerts Seneca would have tossed in the Tiber. Or perhaps it's creating a Stoic sanctuary, one room or corner where devices aren't allowed, just as Roman gardens provided respite from the forum's chaos. Remember, every time you enforce a boundary, you're not saying no to the world, you're saying yes to your sovereignty. And in an economy that profits from your divided attention, that yes becomes an act of quiet rebellion. That construction crew outside your window at 7 a.m. isn't just shattering your peace, it's offering a masterclass in Stoic endurance. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The obstacle in the path becomes the path," and buried in that line is a revolutionary way to reframe urban irritations. Every honking cab, every crowded elevator, every endlessly buffering video call isn't just happening to you, it's happening for your training. The city's chaos isn't your enemy, it's the most demanding professor you'll ever have, and tuition is free. Take the quintessential urban nightmare, being stuck between two loud phone talkers on public transit. Most people fume, scrolling angrily to drown them out. The Stoic approach: lean in, let their inane chatter become your meditation object. Notice how your irritation rises like steam, then dissipates when you stop feeding it. That's not just patience, it's alchemy, turning leaden annoyances into golden self-awareness. Epictetus trained his students to see rude strangers as sparring partners for their composure. Your neighbor's late-night karaoke sessions, they're not ruining your sleep, they're gifting you nightly drills in equanimity. Here's where ancient wisdom meets modern neuroscience. Studies show that reframing stress as enhancing, telling yourself, "This challenge is strengthening me," literally changes your physiological response. Marcus Aurelius anticipated this by 2 millennia when he wrote, "The blazing fire makes flames and brightness out of everything thrown into it." Your job isn't to avoid life's irritants, it's to become the fire that transforms them. Start a distraction gratitude list, not for the obvious blessings: family, health, shelter, but for the urban nuisances that quietly sculpt your resilience. Thank the barrister who got your order wrong for teaching you grace under frustration. Appreciate the jammed printer for revealing how quickly frustration passes when you stop resisting it. Even the Wi-Fi outage that ruined your evening, it gifted you an unplanned digital detox. The more specific your entries, the more profound the shift. Instead of resenting the subway delay, jot down, "Grateful for this stalled train, it's training me to distinguish real urgency from imagined." Your challenge: recall one irritation from this week that initially sparked frustration, maybe a colleague interrupting your focus or a street musician playing the same riff on loop. Now interrogate it like a Stoic detective. What did it teach you about your triggers? Where did it expose hidden expectations? That coworker's interruption might have revealed your ego's need to be heard. The repetitive street music, a mirror showing how quickly boredom morphs into agitation. The lesson isn't to enjoy annoyances, but to mine them for self-knowledge. Because here's the secret the Stoics knew: life's friction isn't incidental, it's instructional. The city won't stop honking, but you can learn to hear the noise as applause for your growing mastery. Next time an urban inconvenience strikes, ask Marcus Aurelius' question: "What is this here to teach me?" the answer might just transform your day from stressful to studious. Seneca once described his daily walks as sessions of moving meditation, where the rhythm of his steps became the metronome for his thoughts. He wasn't alone. The ancient Stoics revered peripatetic philosophy, the art of thinking while walking, long before treadmills and podcasts turned strolls into productivity hacks. There's something radical about reviving this practice in today's cities, where sidewalks are crowded with people physically present but mentally miles away, eyes locked on screens instead of the life unfolding around them. Your morning commute or lunchtime walk doesn't have to be dead time filled with scrolling. It can be a moving sanctuary, a chance to let your mind breathe while your body moves. Try this next time you walk to the subway or cafe. Leave your phone in your pocket. Let your senses take in the city like a Stoic naturalist. Notice how the light filters through scaffolding, how the scent of roasted nuts from a street vendor mingles with exhaust fumes, how the cadence of footsteps around you creates an urban symphony. Seneca wrote, "The mind must be given time to wander, to follow its own currents." And walking without distraction creates that space. Your route doesn't need to be picturesque. Even a grid of concrete can become a canvas for observation when you're fully present. For a true peripatetic challenge, map a mindful mile in your neighborhood, a route you'll walk weekly without devices. Maybe it's a loop past the post office and that faded mural no one stops to see, or a bridge where you can watch barges glide beneath you like modern-day Roman ships. The key isn't distance, it's diligence. Treat each step as an opportunity to practice what Marcus Aurelius called the double duty, observing the outer world while examining your inner one. That woman arguing on her phone, a reminder of the peace you gain by not reacting impulsively. The construction noise, a drill in accepting what you can't control. Here's the deeper shift. When you walk with intention, the city transforms from a distraction minefield into a living Stoic textbook. Epictetus taught that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so we can listen twice as much as we speak. Walking mindlessly with earbuds in reverses that wisdom. But walk with open ears, and you'll start hearing lessons everywhere: the patience of a crossing guard shepherding schoolchildren, the resilience of a sapling pushing through sidewalk cracks. Even the erratic pulse of pedestrian traffic becomes a metaphor. Some rush, some linger, but all are headed somewhere. So think back to your last phone-free walk. What details emerge now that didn't register in the moment? The way shadows stretched across your path, the snatch of conversation that made you smile. Those overlooked fragments are the raw materials of Stoic attention training. Tomorrow, when you tie your shoes, ask yourself Seneca's question: will this walk be a distraction or a dialogue with the world? The answer will determine whether you merely move through the city or let it move you. Musonius Rufus, the Stoic teacher who made his students sleep on hard beds and fetch water in the cold, would walk through our modern cities utterly bewildered. Not by the skyscrapers or smartphones, but by how thoroughly we've outlawed discomfort. Elevators eliminate stairs, meal delivery apps bypass cooking. Smart thermostats maintain perfect 72-degree bubbles while we sleep. Convenience isn't just king, it's our invisible cage. The Stoic twist: some of the most powerful focus training happens when we voluntarily step out of that cage and into momentary unease. Consider the cold shower, a modern echo of Musonius ice bucket drills. That initial shock when frigid water hits your skin isn't just a physiological jolt, it's a masterclass in attention. There's no zoning out, no mental wandering when your body screams for warmth. Your mind snaps to the present with laser focus. Ancient Stoics didn't take cold plunges because they lacked hot water. They understood that voluntary discomfort is the whetstone that sharpens willpower. Today's equivalent might be leaving your coat unzipped on a brisk walk or taking the stairs while others wait for elevators. These aren't feats of endurance, they're micro-rebellions against a culture that conflates comfort with living well. Now contrast this with the city's siren song of instant relief. Traffic jam, podcasts numb the frustration, bored in line, infinite scroll fills the void. Even minor thirst is now an emergency solved by 24-hour convenience stores. The problem isn't these comforts themselves, it's what we lose by never practicing their absence. Like a muscle that atrophies without resistance, our focus weakens when every itch gets instantly scratched. The Stoics called this voluntary hardship, and its modern application is startlingly simple. Deliberately create small gaps between desire and fulfillment. Try this today. Let your phone battery dip below 20% without charging it immediately. Sit with that low battery anxiety and observe how your mind races to solve a problem that isn't truly urgent. Or walk past a cafe smelling fresh croissants without stopping, not to deprive yourself, but to prove you can. These are modern versions of Musonius exercises, each one reinforcing that discomfort isn't danger, it's data. That moment when you resist checking a notification, that's your focus doing push-ups. Here's the paradox: cities designed for convenience become prisons when we forget how to function without their crutches. The executive who panics when her latte order is wrong has the same untrained mind as Musonius students who couldn't start a fire. Both reveal a fragility that comes from never practicing adaptation. The solution isn't rejecting urban comforts, it's occasionally opting out to remind yourself you're stronger than your surroundings. So here's your challenge: not a week-long digital detox or an ice bath unless you're ready, but something simpler. Before the day ends, identify one tiny comfort you'll postpone. Maybe it's waiting an extra 30 minutes for lunch despite hunger pangs, or reading a physical book instead of switching to backlit pages at dusk. Notice how discomfort heightens your senses, how delay amplifies appreciation. Because the ultimate Stoic truth about focus is this: what you willingly endure, you cease to fear. And in a world constantly selling you escape from unease, that fearlessness becomes your quiet superpower. Marcus Aurelius never needed a quiet study or a leather-bound journal to practice his philosophy. He wrote his deepest insights in military camps, amid the clatter of armor and the shouts of soldiers. If the emperor could turn a battlefield into a writing desk, what's stopping you from transforming your morning commute into a Stoic classroom? That crowded subway car with its tinny headphones and flickering ads isn't just transit. It's the perfect training ground for reflective writing. The chaos isn't an obstacle, it's the curriculum. Start with the Stoics' most portable tool, a pocket notebook or even a notes app. The key isn't the medium, it's the mindset. Treat every red light, every delayed train, every coffee shop wait as an invitation to jot down one observation. Not lofty musings, start with raw, unfiltered notes like, "The man arguing on his phone made my shoulders tense," or "I felt envy scrolling past vacation photos." These are your urban meditation prompts. Marcus didn't write in polished prose. His meditations were fragmented, urgent reminders to himself. Your journal doesn't need eloquence, it needs honesty. Here's how to turn city noise into journaling fuel. First, identify today's friction points, the moments that hijacked your peace. Maybe it was the construction drill that shattered your concentration, or the pang of inadequacy when a colleague's promotion popped up on LinkedIn. Write it down, then apply the Stoic triple filter. Was this within my control? How did my reaction serve me? What would virtue look like here? That sidewalk musician playing the same chord on loop. He's not just background noise, he's your live exercise in distinguishing between external events and your judgments about them. For deeper practice, steal Marcus' favorite prompt. What tested my focus today? Urban life delivers endless answers. The barrister misspelling your name tests patience. The endless scroll tests intentionality. Even the flickering streetlight outside your window tests your ability to anchor inward. Record these not as complaints but as case studies. Epictetus taught that every irritation is a chance to strengthen your inner citadel. Your journal is where you map the cracks in your defenses and plan repairs. Try this tonight. Sit on a park bench with your notebook as the city hums around you. Let the distant sirens and laughing children become your white noise. Write 3 sentences, no more, answering Seneca's daily question. What progress did I make today? Progress isn't about grand achievements, it's the micro shifts. Did you notice your jaw unclench during traffic? Did you pause before reacting to a rude email? Those are victories worth inscribing. The goal isn't to drown out the urban cacophony, but to find your voice within it. Because here's the secret Marcus knew: journaling isn't an escape from the world, it's a way to meet it more fully. When you document your reactions to the city's chaos, you're not just describing your day, you're decoding the architecture of your mind. And that's how a crowded subway platform becomes the truest philosophy school, not in spite of the noise, but because of it. Epictetus watched wealthy Romans flaunt their latest imports, silks from China, spices from India, jewels from Egypt, and saw something invisible to everyone else: chains. Not of gold, but of desire. He'd tell his students, freedom isn't secured by filling your coffers, but by emptying your wants. Fast forward to your local mall today, where escalators glide past shimmering displays, where limited time offers flicker like modern-day sirens luring sailors onto rocks. The products have changed, but the psychological trap remains identical: the belief that acquiring something external will fill an internal void. That's where the Stoic stop comes in, not as deprivation, but as liberation. Picture this: you're walking past a storefront when a display catches your eye, maybe those noise-canceling headphones promising serenity, or the latest smartphone gleaming under spotlights. Your hand drifts toward your wallet. This is the critical moment Epictetus trained for. Before reaching for your card, practice the Stoic pause. Ask his razor-sharp question: is this within my control? The headphones might quiet external noise, but do they address the internal restlessness driving you to seek escape? The phone offers connectivity, but will it connect you to something meaningful or just another dopamine drip? This isn't about rejecting technology, it's about interrogating impulse. Here's how to weaponize that pause. Implement a 24-hour Stoic hold for any unplanned purchase. Walk away. If the item still haunts your thoughts tomorrow, ask Marcus Aurelius follow-up: what will possessing this truly add to my character? That jacket isn't just fabric, it's a test of whether you still equate appearance with worth. The gym membership promo isn't just a financial decision, it's a mirror asking if you're buying the idea of health rather than committing to the work. The hold isn't a rule, it's a revelation. You'll start noticing how many urgent desires evaporate by sunrise. Now consider the architecture of temptation. Malls and online stores are meticulously designed to bypass reason: fluorescent lighting to fatigue your resolve, limited stock messages to trigger scarcity panic, even scent diffusers that lower inhibitions. The Stoics would call these external impressions mere smoke meant to cloud judgment. Your defense: treat every shopping environment as a mindfulness drill. Notice how ads position products as solutions to problems you didn't know you had. That watch isn't telling time, it's selling the fantasy of being the kind of person who owns it. The latte machine isn't brewing coffee, it's peddling a curated lifestyle. Spot the narrative and you disarm the spell. Let's get practical. Next time an ad grabs you, whether a subway poster or targeted Instagram promo, don't scroll past or click. Stop, dissect it like a Stoic philosopher. What emotion is it exploiting? Insecurity, fear of missing out, tribal belonging? Write it down. You'll start spotting patterns. How cosmetics sell not beauty, but confidence in a jar. How car commercials don't sell transportation, but status theater. This week, challenge yourself. Identify one advertisement that made you pause, not because you wanted the product, but because you saw through its emotional wiring. That's the moment Epictetus would celebrate, when you become the observer of your impulses rather than their servant. The ultimate test comes when you return to that mall or reopen that shopping app armed with Stoic clarity. Suddenly, the frantic energy feels different, less like a playground, and more like a lab where human psychology is reverse engineered for consumption. You'll spot fellow shoppers with glazed eyes, gripping bags like trophies, and recognize your former self. But here's the twist: Stoicism doesn't demand you leave empty-handed. It simply insists you leave with something more valuable than purchases, the unshakable knowledge that what you didn't buy didn't own you, and that's a transaction no store can ever refund. Seneca wrote letters about training his ears to filter Rome's chaos, chariot wheels clattering, street vendors haggling, until the noise became as irrelevant as wind rustling leaves. He wasn't just ignoring distractions, he was redesigning how he listened. Today's cities bombard us with sonic clutter, sirens, construction, the tinny bleed of strangers' headphones, but the Stoic secret isn't blocking it all out. It's cultivating what musicians call selective hearing, tuning your attention like an instrument to catch the notes that matter while letting the rest fade into background hum. Noise-canceling headphones are a modern marvel, but the ancient Stoics pioneered noise-canceling mindsets. Picture Seneca strolling through the Roman marketplace, mentally muting the haggling over fish prices to focus on a student's question about virtue. His tool wasn't technology, it was intentionality. You can replicate this today by treating your attention like a spotlight, not a sponge, that jackhammer outside your window. It's only deafening if you keep mentally pointing at it. Shift focus to the rhythm of your breath or the scratch of your pen, and the noise loses its grip. The goal isn't silence, it's sovereignty over what gets amplified in your mental soundscape. Every city has its hidden Stoic soundtracks patterns that can anchor rather than fracture focus. The rhythmic whoosh of subway doors isn't just noise, it's a metronome for patience. The distant clatter of dishes from a cafe kitchen mirrors the Stoic concept of amor fati, embracing life's inherent clang and clamor. Even traffic lights' timed beeps for the visually impaired can become mindfulness bells, snapping you back to the present. Try this. Next time you're waiting at a crosswalk, tune into one urban rhythm, the syncopation of footsteps, the bass line of distant buses. These aren't interruptions, they're invitations to practice selective listening. For a deeper exercise, map your daily routes by sound rather than sight. Identify 3 acoustic landmarks, maybe the fountain in the plaza where water's steady pour drowns out chaotic chatter, or the bookstore alcove where pages turning create a whispery white noise. These become your sonic sanctuaries, modern versions of the shaded colonnades where Stoics paced in contemplation. When you notice yourself tensing at a sudden honk or shout, mentally retreat to these anchor sounds like Seneca returning to his breath amid the forum's uproar. The real test comes when the city refuses to cooperate, when the neighbor's dog won't stop barking or the party upstairs hits peak volume at midnight. This is where Stoic listening transforms from theory to grit. Instead of resisting the noise, lean into it like a musician tuning their ear to discordant notes. Ask Marcus Aurelius' question, "What is this here to teach me?" The dog's yapping drills your ability to recenter. The thumping bass measures your capacity for non-reaction. Even the most jarring sounds become teachers when you stop labeling them as enemies. By day's end, you'll start noticing something revolutionary. The city's soundtrack hasn't changed, but your relationship to it has. The same streets that once felt like an assault on your peace now offer a symphony of focus opportunities if you know how to listen like a Stoic. The chatter, the clatter, the unpredictable bursts of life all around you. They're not obstacles to your tranquility. They're the very conditions under which tranquility becomes meaningful, and that's a harmony no noise-canceling tech can replicate. Musonius Rufus forced his students to sleep on cold ground and fetch water from distant wells, not to punish them, but to reveal a profound truth. Deprivation is the whetstone that sharpens self-mastery. Fast forward to today, where our wells are endless streams of content and our sleeping mats are algorithmically heated to our exact preferences. The modern ascetic practice isn't about giving up comfort, it's about voluntarily stepping back from the digital dopamine that's rewired our attention spans. What if your next phone-free lunch wasn't just a productivity hack, but a spiritual drill straight from Stoic training grounds? Consider how ancient ascetics would fast from food to clarify their minds. Your Instagram detox operates on the same principle. Every time you leave your phone in another room during dinner, you're not just avoiding distractions, you're reenacting Epictetus exercises in desire control. The Stoics didn't advocate permanent abstinence, but deliberate practice in resisting attachment. That's why micro-detoxes work. They're not about rejecting technology, but reclaiming your sovereignty over it. A coffee break without scrolling trains the same mental muscle as Musonius students enduring hunger. Both prove that discomfort is survivable, even illuminating. Here's where modern life twists the Stoic challenge. Ancient ascetics sought out physical hardship. Today's battleground is invisible. Your greatest deprivation isn't skipping a meal, it's sitting through an elevator ride without pulling out your phone. The tremor in your fingers when you resist checking notifications, that's the 21st century equivalent of a growling stomach during a fast. Both reveal how thoroughly we've conflated wants with needs. The solution isn't abandoning smartphones any more than the Stoics abandoned cities. It's developing the discipline to use them without being used by them. Try this Stoic audit. Track your screen time this week, but with a philosophical lens. Label each session as either virtuous, intentional use like calling family or researching, or vacant, mindless scrolling, reflexively checking apps. Then design your ascetic challenge accordingly. Maybe it's leaving your phone charging in the kitchen after 8 p.m. like Seneca retiring to his private quarters. Or treating Sunday mornings as sacred scrolling-free zones, just as Musonius reserved certain days for rigorous training. The goal isn't to tally hours, it's to expose the gap between your professed values and your thumb's autopilot. Now the real test. What's your next screen fasting goal? Not a generic, I'll use my phone less, but a Musonius-worthy drill. Perhaps it's waiting a full minute before unlocking your phone when the impulse strikes long enough to ask Epictetus' question, is this necessary? Or committing to one device-free sunset walk per week, where you observe the city's rhythms without filtering them through a screen. These aren't restrictions, they're liberation rituals, because every time you tolerate the itch of boredom without scratching it digitally, you're rebuilding an ancient skill, the ability to be present in a world that's always whispering, look somewhere else. The Stoics knew something we're just relearning. Comfort is the enemy of growth. Your ancestors trained with hunger and cold. You train with push notifications and infinite scroll. The battlefield has changed, but the war remains the same, for control over your own attention. So tonight, when your phone buzzes with its siren song, remember that little rectangle isn't just a device. It's your modern-day iron weight, waiting to strengthen your focus with every rep of resistance. And the soreness you feel, that's the sweet ache of your willpower growing stronger. Seneca didn't just commute, he transformed bumpy carriage rides across Rome into mobile classrooms, scribbling letters to friends between jolts and turns. While modern subway cars might not have the same rustic charm, they offer something equally precious: stolen minutes where no one expects productivity from you. That's the hidden gift of your daily commute. It's not dead time to kill with scrolling, but uncharted space to reclaim for your mind. The difference between dreading your commute and cherishing it isn't the route or the traffic. It's whether you see those minutes as a void to fill or a canvas to shape. Take the underground at rush hour. Most passengers stare at screens, fingers twitching over feeds designed to exploit their restlessness. But look closer, you'll spot the modern Stoics. They're the ones with dog-eared paperbacks or eyes closed in meditation as trains screech. They've discovered Seneca's secret: motion doesn't preclude depth. In fact, the rhythmic sway of a train can become an anchor for focus, just as the clatter of horse hooves once grounded Seneca's writing. The key isn't escaping the commute's chaos, but using its predictable rhythms as a metronome for your thoughts. Audiobooks are the contemporary equivalent of Seneca's carriage letters, where he jotted philosophical musings to Lucilius. You might absorb Marcus Aurelius' meditations through headphones, turning a packed bus into a private lecture hall. But here's the Stoic twist: don't just consume wisdom, interrogate it. When Aurelius writes, "You have power over your mind, not outside events," pause the playback. Watch how the man next to you reacts when the train delays. Notice your own irritation flare, then dissolve when you remember the delay was never yours to control. That's not passive listening, it's active training. For those who prefer silence, commuting offers a rare chance to practice prosauch, Stoic mindfulness. Unlike meditation apps that simulate tranquil forests, this is focus forged in real-world chaos. Try counting breaths between subway stops, or mentally replaying yesterday's interactions with Epictetus' question: did I act with virtue? The screaming toddler 2 rows back isn't ruining your practice, she's testing it. Ancient Stoics trained in bustling agoras for this reason: tranquility isn't authentic if it shatters at the first honked horn. Now consider the most radical option: doing nothing at all. Not scrolling, not reading, not optimizing, just observing. Watch how sunlight slants through grimy windows, painting shifting geometries on the floor. Study strangers' hands, the barrister's calloused fingers, the student's ink-stained knuckles, and ponder the lives they've touched. This isn't wasted time, it's theoria, the Stoic practice of studied observation. Seneca wrote his most piercing insights not in grand libraries, but by studying ordinary people in streets and bathhouses. Your fellow commuters, they're an ever-changing exhibit of human nature if you learn to look properly. The real test comes when disruptions strike: the cancelled train, the detour, the unexpected downpour. Here's where Stoic commuting shines. Instead of cursing the delay, use it as a live drill in amor fati. That extra 20 minutes waiting on the platform, that's bonus philosophy time. The crowded standing room only car, a chance to practice enduring discomfort with grace. Even the loud phone talker invading your peace becomes your teacher, revealing just how much or how little external noise truly affects your inner dialogue. So tonight, as you charge your devices, make one small change. Cue up a Stoic text or meditation instead of your usual playlist. Tomorrow, when the commute begins, resist the reflex to numb the journey. Let the rhythm of transit become your thinking rhythm, because here's the truth: you don't need Seneca's carriage to write your own letters to the soul. You just need to see the vehicle you're already in for what it really is, a moving monastery in the modern world. Marcus Aurelius found his greatest teacher not in scrolls or lecture halls, but in the quiet rustle of leaves and the patient turning of seasons. He wrote, "Look at the trees, do they hurry? Yet still they grow." That same wisdom waits for you in the heart of every concrete jungle, where parks and green spaces stand as living classrooms for Stoic practice. Next time you pass a ginkgo tree pushing through sidewalk cracks or ducks gliding across a city pond, pause. These aren't just pleasant distractions from urban life, they're masterclasses in focus, resilience, and the art of moving at nature's tempo amidst a world addicted to haste. Consider the contrast between a squirrel burying acorns and your phone buzzing with urgent notifications. One follows ancient rhythms, the other manufactures artificial emergencies. The Stoics revered nature precisely for this. It refuses to be rushed, mirroring their belief that virtue unfolds in its own time. Your local park's oldest tree has witnessed decades of human frenzy while standing unmoved. That's no accident. It's an invitation to ask, as Marcus did, what would this oak say about my daily worries? You'll find the answer in its roots, deeply anchored while the world whirls above. Here's how to translate this into practice. Designate one weekly tree contemplation, not a full meditation session, just 5 minutes observing a single tree as if it held the secrets of the universe. Because it does. Notice how its branches reach without grasping, how it bends in storms without breaking, how it sheds leaves when necessary without apology. These aren't poetic metaphors, they're operating instructions for human flourishing. Epictetus compared life to a banquet where we should take what's offered without demanding more. Your chosen tree demonstrates this daily, drawing exactly what it needs from soil and sun, never hoarding or wasting. The real test comes when you carry these lessons back into the asphalt world. That delayed subway train, it's moving at the pace of molasses in January, just like maple sap before the harvest. Your impatient tapping foot becomes the student, learning from nature's unshakable tempo. Even something as simple as watching pigeons bicker over crumbs becomes a lesson in harmless social friction. Seneca marveled at birds for their ability to fight, then immediately forget, a skill most humans never master. So here's your challenge. Recall one natural detail that recently pulled you into the present. Was it the precise geometry of a spider web between bike racks? The way rain transformed a grimy alley into a mirror for passing clouds, that moment when sunlight hit a puddle just right, revealing an oil-slick rainbow. These micro-miracles aren't just pretty, they're Stoic exercises disguised as beauty. Each one is a chance to practice what the ancients called physitheoria, the study of nature's laws through direct observation. Because here's the secret your city's green spaces guard. True focus isn't about blocking out the world, but seeing it with calibrated clarity. The next time you're overwhelmed by urban frenzy, find the nearest patch of grass or skyline distant mountain. Let their steadfast presence remind you, you're not a leaf blown by chaos, but the trunk that stands firm while winds howl. And that perspective, it grows stronger every time you pause to witness a weed triumphing over concrete, proving once more that nature's wisdom thrives even where we least expect it. Epictetus worked by lamplight, copying scrolls late into the night, not because some overseer demanded it, but because he believed labor itself was sacred. Work with your materials, he told his students, not as a burden, but as an altar where you honor your potential. Fast forward to today's open office nightmare, ping-pong tables masking productivity theater, co-workers narrating sandwich orders over your monitor, the constant pinging of messages treating your attention like public property. The Stoics would spot the irony. We've built workspaces that simulate collaboration while systematically destroying the conditions for meaningful work. But here's the twist. Those same chaotic offices become proving grounds for a radical kind of focus, if you know how to wield Stoic principles like mental armor. Start with the core Stoic shift, reframing work as moral exercise rather than mere output. When Marcus Aurelius reviewed troop deployments at dawn, he wasn't just managing logistics, he was practicing discipline. Your spreadsheet under fluorescent lights, same opportunity. Every cell filled accurately despite office chatter isn't just data entry, it's integrity in action. The colleague who interrupts your flow becomes your patience drill. Even the soul-crushing weekly meeting transforms when you approach it as Epictetus would, not asking, "How do I escape this?" But how does enduring this strengthen my resolve? This isn't about tolerating dysfunction. It's about reclaiming agency amid the madness. Now dissect the open office through Stoic physics. These spaces operate on two false premises. First, that creativity thrives in constant stimulation. The Stoics knew deep thought requires intervals of withdrawal. And second, that visibility equals productivity. Seneca wrote his greatest letters in solitary lamplight. The solution isn't raging against the design. It's constructing inner walls where physical ones are forbidden. Noise-canceling headphones become your philosopher's cloak. The 15-minute focus sprint before checking messages mirrors Seneca's morning journaling ritual. Even your out-of-office reply mutates into a modern-day "do not disturb" sign hung on your mental door. For true Stoic rebellion, try this. Block your calendar in plain sight with events titled "A Deep Work Virtue Practice." When colleagues question it, quote Musonius Rufus, "Just as physical exercise shapes the body, concentrated labor shapes the soul." Then demonstrate what focused work actually looks like. Your screen a single document, your posture immovable as a Corinthian column. The goal isn't to shame open office evangelists, but to model an alternative liturgy where productivity isn't measured in decibels or mouse clicks, but in craftsmanship and presence. Here's where ancient texts offer unexpected, deep work hacks. Epictetus students memorized maxims while walking through rowdy marketplaces, the original distraction training. Adapt this by practicing spreadsheet formulas amidst cafeteria clatter. Marcus Aurelius wrote portions of Meditations on military campaigns. Your version might be drafting reports during commute chaos. The common thread, treating focus not as a fragile state requiring perfect conditions, but as a muscle that grows stronger through resistance. Your office isn't hostile to concentration, it's the ideal gym for it. So as you shut down your computer tonight, ask Epictetus' question with fresh urgency. What's one task tomorrow deserving full attention? Not the flashiest assignment or the most urgent fire. Drill the work that, done with undistracted excellence, would make you feel most aligned with your principles. Maybe it's that proposal you've been skimming or the code review requiring painstaking precision. Whatever you choose, approach it as a Stoic sacrament. Your keyboard becomes the altar, your focus the offering. Because here's the secret: those glass-walled offices can't contain real productivity was never about space. It's about sovereignty, and that's something no floor plan can give or take away. Seneca's evenings didn't end with doom scrolling or binge watching. They closed with a question. What part of your day was truly yours? In a world where city lights never dim and notifications bleed into bedtime, the Stoic night routine isn't just about better sleep. It's about reclaiming the last waking hours from urban overstimulation. Picture this: you're lying in bed, your mind still racing from the day's chaos, honking taxis, unresolved work tension, the glow of screens still imprinted behind your eyelids. This is where Seneca's most practical wisdom kicks in. His nightly ritual wasn't passive rest, It was active recalibration, a way to sift through the day's noise and extract meaning. Start with what the Stoics called the examen, a deliberate review of the day's focus battles. Not a guilt-ridden inventory, but a detached observation, like a general assessing a campaign. That moment you reflexively checked your phone during dinner, note it without judgment. I surrendered to distraction here, the argument that hijacked your peace. Label it, I mistook someone's opinion for my reality. Seneca wrote his reflections by candlelight, but your version might be 3 bullet points in a notebook or even mental notes while brushing your teeth. The format doesn't matter, the honesty does. This isn't about tallying failures, it's about spotting patterns. Did external chaos dictate your attention, or did you choose where to aim it? Now layer in Stoic sleep preparation. Ancient Rome had its own version of blue light oil lamps flickering late into the night, slaves bustling with last-minute tasks. Seneca's solution, a twilight buffer, a sacred hour where stimulation tapered off. Your modern equivalent might mean shutting off screens 90 minutes before bed, yes, even that, just one episode habit. Replace it with low-light activities that signal closure to your nervous system, reading philosophy by a dim lamp, sketching tomorrow's priorities in a journal, or simply sitting by a window to watch the city's pulse slow. The goal isn't to eliminate urban energy, but to dial it down gradually, like lowering a volume knob instead of slamming it shut. Here's the twist, your bedtime ritual isn't just for you. It's a silent protest against the city's endless hustle. When you refuse to let the day's last thoughts be dictated by a glowing rectangle, you're enacting Epictetus' defiance. I must die, but must I die groaning? Adapt his defiance to modern terms. The city never sleeps, but must I let it keep me awake? Try this tonight. As you lie in bed, mentally return to one moment when your focus wavered. Replay it, but this time insert a pause, that split second where you could have chosen differently. That's not regret, it's rehearsal for tomorrow. And finally, the most subversive step, gratitude for the day's distractions. Not because they were pleasant, but because they were teachers. That construction noise at dawn, it tested your equanimity. The endless email chain, it revealed where you still outsource your calm. Seneca ended his days by thanking even the irritations not as a forced positivity exercise, but as recognition that friction polishes the mind. So tonight, as you drift off, add this Stoic coda. What did today's chaos reveal about where my focus is strongest, where it's still brittle? The answers will guide you toward mornings that begin not with reactive scrolling, but with intention, because how you end the day determines how you'll meet the next. Every city has its monuments, towering skyscrapers that scrape the sky, bronze statues frozen in heroic poses, bridges that stitch neighborhoods together with steel and ambition. These structures demand our gaze, their grandeur whispering, look what we've built. But walk through any metropolis and you'll find another kind of landmark, one the Stoics considered far more enduring. Not marble or steel, but the invisible architecture of character. Marcus Aurelius put it plainly, what survives of us isn't carved in stone, but etched in the minds of those we've touched. While urban planners debate zoning laws, Stoics ask a different question. What are you constructing within? Consider the difference between a bank vault and a well-trained mind. One stores gold that thieves can steal, markets can crash, or inflation can erode. The other safeguards something no recession can touch, your ability to choose virtue over vanity, clarity over clutter, purpose over panic. That's the Stoic monument, an inner citadel built brick by brick through daily practice. When you resist snapping at a rude stranger, you're laying mortar for patience. When you walk past a flashing sale sign without buying what you don't need, you're sculpting self-command. These aren't small acts, they're the foundation stones of an unshakable self. Now imagine your city's skyline reflected in a rain puddle, the shimmering illusion of permanence. That's how the Stoics saw external achievements compared to inner growth. A CEO's corner office might impress strangers, but only their character earns real respect. A viral tweet fades faster than the ink used to write it, but the discipline required to pause before posting. That lingers. Epictetus, who taught in a cramped Athenian classroom, put it bluntly: you're not your job title or your followers, you're your choices. The monuments that matter aren't on tourist maps, they're in the quiet moments when you align actions with principles. Here's the challenge: sketch your inner skyline. What buildings dominate it? Is it a sprawling campus of curiosity where every challenge becomes a classroom? A slender spire of resilience, bending but never breaking in life's storms? Maybe there's a public square where compassion meets strangers, or a sturdy bridge between your past mistakes and present growth. Unlike physical cities, this one's zoned for constant renovation. That habit you've outgrown, demolish it. The courage you've been postponing, break ground today. The beautiful paradox: while urban monuments crumble under time and weather, your inner architecture grows stronger with use. Every subway delay endured with grace reinforces your patience like steel beams. Each temptation resisted adds another layer to your integrity's foundation. Even failures become scaffolding for wisdom, not signs of collapse, but proof you're expanding your blueprint. So tonight, as city lights flicker outside your window, ask yourself Marcus Aurelius' nightly question: what did I build today that no earthquake can shake? The answer won't make headlines, but it just might outlast every brick in this town. The chaos of the city doesn't have to fracture your focus, it can forge it. That's the Stoic paradox we've explored. The same streets engineered to distract you become the training ground for unshakable attention. You've walked through ancient principles with modern souls, learning to wield control like Marcus Aurelius navigating Rome's political storms, to reframe interruptions like Seneca turning construction noise into concentration drills, to craft intentional practices as Epictetus did transforming every honking cab and buzzing phone into a chance to exercise sovereignty over your mind. These aren't abstract ideas, they're survival tools for urban life. The dichotomy of control teaches you to separate the traffic jam from your frustration about it. Negative visualization turns a dead phone battery into a revelation of your digital dependencies. The Stoic pause, that breath between stimulus and reaction, rewires your reflexes, so a delayed train becomes thinking time rather than stealing time. Even the architecture of your day shifts when you block fortress hours like a Roman guarding city gates, letting trivial demands bounce off your mental walls. Epictetus, who knew slavery before philosophy, left us the ultimate compass. Freedom is the only worthy city, not a physical metropolis, but an inner citadel where your attention isn't currency spent by advertisers or hijacked by algorithms. That freedom isn't found by escaping New York or Tokyo or London. It's built by how you stand firm within them. When you choose what to value, what to ignore, and where to direct your gaze, you're no longer a passenger in your own life. You become the architect. Here's your marching orders. Within the next 24 hours, pick one Stoic tool and test it in the wild. Maybe it's applying the view from above during your commute, watching skyscrapers shrink your stressors to size. Or perhaps it's a digital no, letting one notification chime unanswered as you reclaim your right to focus. Even something as simple as thanking an urban irritation for its lesson counts as rebellion. Then share your experiment below. Tell us how amor Fati transformed a mist train into mindfulness, or how premeditatio malorum disarmed your phone's siren song. Because here's the secret no urban planner will admit. Cities aren't built of steel and glass, but of human attention. Every time you direct yours with intention, you're not just navigating the chaos, you're rewriting its rules. So go on, the world's loudest classrooms are waiting. Your diploma, the unshakable focus no distraction can take from you. Now step outside and start building your freedom where it matters most right